Welcome to Seven Figure Flipping Podcast. This is Dr. Sherry, and I am getting to co-host with Adam Whitney today. And we have a super amazing guest that you will not want to miss. It is one of our badass women who are in the seven figure flipping community. She is doing flipping really awesome in one of the hardest states, people say, that to flip in, to do any sort of real estate investing. And that's California. She is killing it. And she's got questions today on how she can kill it even more. So Adam, being the data and marketing guru that he is, he's going to coach Sarah on how she can move forward in her business by diversifying her lead source into mailers, which she has not done yet. So this is going to be a really important podcast to listen to if you want to start doing mailers, or if you want to improve your response rate on the mailers that you're already doing.
Did you send out some direct mail?
I sent out one.
One batch.
Well, yes. And it was consisted of 5 letters, cards.
Oh,
Yeah.
5 letters.
Yeah, because honestly, I didn't really know what I was supposed to, like, we talked about how to get the DataFlik information that I got.
Okay.
And they sent some lists to me, and I looked at them. Kind of just, it talks about whatever, like the categories, has different columns of pre-foreclosures or notice of default and different things. And I honestly
Can you email that list to me?
Yep.
What I would do, I'll show you the process. So like when we do marketing and we're going to get good data, in your case, you went and got DataFlik data, which is good data. It's, stacked niche data, which it's got, foreclosures, tax delinquents,
Right.
senior owners, got all this like potential opportunity for off market. But then there's a lot of data. So they sent you a whole county's worth.
right.
So now what we got to do is pull up this list and what I call clean the list. Okay. Like, do I want to mail to all this data? Do I only want to mail to certain zip codes? Is there, because on that list, we're going to look at the property types. If it has mobile homes and you wouldn't flip mobile homes, then we'll take those off. We'll save. What we don't want to do is we don't want to market to properties that are not going to be, we're never going to buy them, right? Because that's wasted marketing dollars. What we want to do is get a good quality list from good quality data and then clean that list to make sure it's what we want to target. And then we're going to organize that data in a very specific way and do what I call direct mail prep.
Okay.
So that's going to be how it's prepared. And that's basically going to be us getting rid of all the other stuff, getting rid of all the data on that spreadsheet that's not necessary for the direct mail house. Direct mail house only needs the person's first and last name. They only need the property address and the mailing address. And then they need a marketing number and your website. That's it. Okay. So all the rest of that data, we're going to scrub off of there.
Yeah. So I kind of went through and did that on some of them, like taking out. Yeah, there's just a lot of information unnecessary. Like even for me, I was looking at like the bed and bath count. Like at this point, I don't think it's necessarily that, or like just a lot of information. Anyways, and then I guess where I just stopped myself was kind of, I shouldn't say what's the point, but I'm like, I'm sure these people have received like 100 mailers from 100 different people. So what, like, Is that the case with these lists? Like, even though they say they're stacked or they're niche, is that probably still the case?
It's possible, but that doesn't really matter. Okay. Let me show you. I'm going to show you like a marketing campaign and a funnel. So if you come into our business, you can see this is year to date. So I spent $39,000 and the data. So we go out and pull the raw data, the property addresses. Then we suck them into our system and we deduplicate it. We throw out anything that's like not doable. Like we can't do that deal. And that actually whittles us down to about 10% of the raw data is actually good data for us to target. So there's only 2,215 total records on this one particular strategy, one marketing campaign. Of those 2,215 records, we are calling and texting it. So you can see this is almost 100,000 points of outreach between call and text. And we've set 219 appointments from this. 63 people no-showed. 28 people were rescheduled. 45 of these properties are qualified for us to buy the thing we buy the way we buy it. Okay, and that's unique to us, obviously. We've made offers actually on 47 of them. It's produced 9 contracts. We have 10 closed contracts this year, and we had to cancel 2, and it's produced almost $500,000 in revenue. Okay, so you can see the whole funnel from like I spent dollars down to I made dollars,
Right.
and all the things that we track in between. I think this conceptually is important to like, okay, because I'm going to send out mail, and then what?
Yeah.
Or I'm going to call people, and then what? Like, what's important here?
Right.
So I think that's important. So if you go down, then I look at, these are like efficiency metrics here. How many outbound touch points does it take for me to set an appointment? Well, I know I got to call or text 426 people just to get one appointment. And to get one contract, I got to go on 24 appointments. To get the closed contracts, because I had some bleed over from last year, it's 22. So every 22 appointments, I get a new house signed up, right? And then I look at the economic metrics. So for every, call it $4,000 I spend, I make 48 grand. And that's given me, so that we break that down into return on ad spend. So every dollar I spend on marketing, I make $13. So my ROAS is 1 to 13, right? That's great for us. Then I have some data sources, and then I have appointment by method for this particular strategy. What's interesting about this data is you see I got 137 cold call appointments, but only 6 contracts out of that. I got 61 text appointments, which is 3 contracts, which is about half. So those ratios are basically the same. So that efficiency of those two are very similar. But then I look at direct mail and I go, I only got 11 direct mail appointments, but I closed 3 houses from it. Mm-hmm. That's hyper efficient marketing. So then I go, okay, how much direct mail have I sent to this particular campaign this year? I've only sent about 5,000 pieces. It's produced 70. So when I send direct mail, the first measure of success is how many people call me. Okay. And industry standard is 0.5%. You go look around the direct to seller marketing companies in the country, they're probably doing about 0.5% response rate. We call this a response rate. I send out mail and 0.5% call me back. Okay. So in my case, I'm getting almost 1.5%, which is like significantly higher than most people in the country. So that's a really good response rate. If somebody didn't know anything about direct mail, they'd be like, only 1% of the people call me. That's not good. I'll give you an example. I was talking to Chandler Biggs, who's in a runway community. He sent out 500 pieces of mail, just 500 pieces, one time, by the way. Not like, hey, I got a list of 500 and I'm going to hit them over 6 months, once a month, which would be pretty standard, typical. He sent it out one time, got one deal, made like 40 grand on it. And he was excited because he made money. But what he didn't look at is all that meat in between from dollar spent to dollar made, all these metrics that are indicators of if it's succeeding. So he got 10 phone calls from 500 mailers, which is a 2% response rate, which is very high compared to the industry. So in his mind, he didn't question it. He's like, I got a deal. I made 40 grand. Like, woohoo, it worked. But that's as far as it went. So he sends out his second 500. and he doesn't get a deal, but he gets 10 phone calls again, 10 new phone calls. And he goes, Adam, this mail is not working. I'm like, what? You got a 2% response rate. Of those 10 phone calls, because this is like the next thing you measure. If 10 people call me, how many of those 10 had a house and wanted to sell? That's a lead. He goes, 5. I'm like, well, okay, of those 5, like, how many did you go see and make an offer on? He's like, 3. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, that's really good results. You just don't have data significance because you only sent out 500. And he's talking about, okay, I'm going to do like PPL or I'm like, no, like, why would you do that? This is working so well. Let's do more of this. Like, can we get 1,000 records? Can we get 2,000 records to send mail to? Because if you're getting 10 calls on 500 and you send out 1,000 and now you get 20 calls and 10 of them are leads, like you're doing really well. The likelihood that you're going to, sign a contract and get a deal goes up exponentially. So that's like the high level view of this. And I'll kind of pause there, either for you or Sherry. Like, when you see this, does that kind of funnel in how it goes from, all right, I'm going to spend money on mail to down to how I'm going to make money and everything in between? Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. And I know for you, for example, you have, your leads or where you're getting them and how you're getting them very probably dialed in and at this point. But for like, what would be something that someone sending out like small batches of mail or like mailers or cold calls, what kind of like, did you call it ROA? No, what was like
ROAS, return on ad spend.
Oh, and would you consider mailers an ad? No.
Yeah.
Oh, it
yeah,
is.
It's
Okay.
marketing.
All in general.
It's marketing.
Okay.
Yep.
And so what would one typically then look for?
Okay, so from a return on ad spend, we want to think about this. Like, if I spend $1 on marketing and I get 3 back, that should be the minimum. Like, I want to at least be 3 to 1. Now you see I'm 13 to 1. I'm hyper efficient. I have really good margins, and you're a very successful flipper. So you'll have good margins too if you take care of those leads. And I know you will. So you can go in, you can buy the houses, you know how to make money on the flip. So like, I'm not super concerned. If you get somebody who's willing to sell their house, you're probably going to be the one to buy it direct from them. So I feel comfortable in that. So let's kind of, let's say we take 5,000 records from your DataFlik list and we build out the marketing campaign. We get the letter ready or the postcard ready. We get the data all organized. We send it to the mail house to get us the mail, and then we send the mail out. What happens next?
Right.
What happens next? on that data sheet, on that sheet, you're going to attach a phone number to that campaign. Ideally, it's a unique phone number that's not being used for anything else. And the reason you want it to be unique is because you want to know how the mail performs. So you can use a Google Voice number. You can get a phone platform. You can use Open Phone or Smartphone or any of these voice over IP phone platforms. Doesn't really matter. Like Google Voice, I think you can get for free. You only have one campaign. It would be fine, right? So you have a phone number that's unique to that mailing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's your phone number. So anybody that calls into that, you're associating with that mail campaign. So if I send out 1,000 pieces of mail and I get 10 phone calls, that's a 1% response rate. So I'm going to send that mail out. Ideally, when I do this, I like to mail the mail on a Friday. I put it in the mail on a Friday. And then what typically happens is most of the people get the mail like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. There'll be people who are close to where it goes out at that get it on Saturday and on Sunday, but that'll be smaller. The majority of it will land oftentimes like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So that's why I send it out on Friday, and then we can answer the phones during the week during mostly normal business hours. Okay, so that's like my control for that. So we send the mail out attached to one number. The next step is phone calls come in and we answer. Must answer. Like it's a non-negotiable, like you got to answer the phone or have it like, I know if you have like a VA assistant, make sure they answer the phone. If you don't answer the phone, it's really like, you're like, oh, I missed a call. I'm going to call them back. What we find is that it ends up being really hard to get a hold of those people again. And they're on to the next investor. They're calling the next postcard. They're going to somebody's website. They're trying to get relief, especially the motivated people who are ready to sell you their house. Mm-hmm. They're looking for relief. So I think of it like a plumber. I was in, Jenny and I over Thanksgiving were at that Airbnb that we have now in Fairhope, Alabama. It was a flip and we had to turn it into an Airbnb because it was a bad flip. And Jenny's outside fiddling, touching everything, and she touches the water spigot and breaks it. And it's just spewing water out. And I have zero construction or man skills. So I'm like, oh, I don't know what to do. Like, I got to figure out, like, I think there's a water main I got to shut off. So eventually I get on YouTube. I find out where the water main probably is. I find the water main and we shut the water main off so the thing starts spewing out. But then I'm like, well, we have to get this fixed before I leave. So I go to Google, I need a plumber. That's who fixes water problems. Call the first person, they don't answer. What did I do? I called the second person, they don't answer. Called the third person, they picked up their phone. They're the ones that came out. The second person called me back. I said, no problem. Already got the problem fixed. Don't need you anymore.
Right.
Like,
yeah,
that's what our sellers are doing too, right? Mm-hmm. So if I send marketing to them and I don't answer my phone, you can be sure that they're on to the next person. Mm-hmm. That's why when we talk about direct mail marketing, it's so critical. It seems like such a simple thing that you actually have somebody picking the phone up when they call. And that could be you. It could be your VA. It's usually not that complicated. The phone calls come in two variations. Variation one is, take me off your list. You're the worst person in the world, blah, 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 blah. And maybe they're cussing at you and you go, okay, I'm so sorry. We'll take you off the list. Can you tell me your address so I can take you off? Tell you your address, you take a note of it and you move on. The second person is the potential seller. And those people come in three levels of motivation. They're either cold tire kickers going, I wonder what my property's worth. Or, they're like, they want to sell, but they don't need to sell. They've got something percolating in the background and they're starting to kick the tires on what their options are. And then the third person is feeling the pain and they genuinely need to sell, not just want, but need. And those are the fun ones, obviously, because they're like, help me. And you're like, yes, I would love to help you. What's going on? Tell me about the property. Tell me about your situation. What's most important to you? All this stuff Lindsay talks about on our coaching calls, right? So you're just really curious, asking questions. And then you go, sounds like something I might go to help you with. Can I come out and see the property today, tomorrow? And you set an appointment. You go and you look at the property. And of course, you're doing what we call pre-work at this time. So you're pulling it up, you're evaluating it. What's this going to be worth if I fix it up? Okay, I got the ARV here. It's like $500K if it's all fixed up. I feel very good about that. Based on what they told me, it sounds like a 40, 50, 60K rehab, but let me go validate at the appointment. So you go to the appointment and you talk to the person. You go, hey, how these usually work is we're going to walk around the property together. I'm going to ask you some questions. I'm just going to make sure everything's kind of what I thought it was, right? Then you walk around, you're basically writing your scope of work. You got a little checklist. You bring a clipboard. You got your checklist on there. You basically, if it needs a full kitchen, you know what a kitchen costs.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yep, that's $15K, $20K.
Yeah.
If it needs a bathroom, that's $5K, that's $7K, whatever your costs are there in California. And once you get done with that, that's when you sit down at the kitchen table and talk about what their problem is that you're solving and say, if I could solve that problem for you, is that something, would you be ready to move forward today? They're like, yes. And then you go into negotiation. Like, okay, well, just looking at the comps and I'm seeing other investors buying houses for insert price anchor, $8 down the street. And they're like, oh no, I can never do that. And you're like, well, that's not what I'm going to pay. As I look at the numbers and, if I could do this number? Would you start lower? Give them the number. They're like, oh no, I need a little more. And you're like, okay, well, what if I come up $5,000? Like, yes, okay, boom, I win. You win. We sign the contract right there at the kitchen table.
This just sounds too easy. Just all falls into place.
Well, you know, sometimes we got to talk through, like, we got to visualize what this whole process looks like put together. So we're not like, okay, I'm going to send this mail out and then what, right? It's going to go from mail to phone call. And then for those other two people that are interested in selling, but they're not like, they want to sell, they got something percolating, those become your leads that are building up on your spreadsheet or your CRM over time. That, you know, I got 20 minutes on Monday. I'm calling these people going, hey, Sarah, just checking in on you. I know you said you were interested in selling and you had this and this going on. Did your mother get the help she needed? Did you get the thing you were looking for? They're like, oh, no, actually, I didn't. I'm actually feeling pain. I am considering selling. And then over time, those people sell to you, too, when they're ready.
Right.
So I think it's just important, you know, we talk like this call is about marketing. Let's get our first ever marketing campaign launched. We bought everything off the MLS and we got all the wholesalers, but we want to get some of our own deals and control our deal flow. Yeah, totally feasible.
Yeah. And I think for me, this came to the point, like it was in January, February, part of March, like we couldn't get a deal for the life of us. Everything I offered on, same strategy as last year. I was coming in like $25,000 below what they were either selling or signing for. Every single one. And like,
and they wouldn't, and you couldn't get them to agree to the number.
No, because people were buying them.
Yeah.
People were paying crazy prices. In my opinion, to make a profit that I would consider making, which is not 10 grand on a $400,000 house.
Absolutely not.
You know, and I don't know what was sort of going on. It's still a little bit, people are still paying way too high, in my opinion, higher than I would pay, and not just 5-10, like we're talking like 20-25K. And so I got to that point sort of now, you know, then all of a sudden we had this like, you know, influx. And now we have like 7 properties, but in that time,
you have 7 properties right now. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So, but in that time, it gave me time to think about like, I need to also control some of it. I still don't mind buying from wherever I buy from at the price, but I also want to be able to control some part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, direct mail to me is the most foundational marketing source. It's cost efficient compared to like PPC or PPL or some of the other stuff. And it's a little better quality than cold calling and texting. And it's not as busy and noisy as those. It's very fundamental. Like you're never going to stop getting mail in your mailbox. The U.S. Post Office isn't going anywhere. We don't have to worry about that. So it's what I consider a foundational marketing strategy, like the baseline. Yeah. So you master this. Now, I can tell you that direct mail doesn't respond the same everywhere in the country. If I send direct mail into the city of Tampa, it's like a black hole sometimes. Yeah. I know there are some California investors like in San Diego or like, you know, LA, where direct mail doesn't respond well there either. Okay. But like Northern California, Central California, you're probably getting a little better response fundamentally there. But we'll find out, right? Like we'll put a campaign together, we'll test the market, we'll send it out, and we'll know if it's going to work based on the response rate we get. So if you send it out and 2 weeks goes by, you call me and I go, how many did you send? You say, I sent 5,000. How many calls did you get? Well, I got this many calls. It's like, okay, like you're above 0.5%. Like that's fundamentally, that's that's like market standard. Right. Now, if you're like 0.1 or 0.2%, then we got to go, I don't know if we want to continue to put money here because that response isn't like, that's not going to be enough to create the good return on ad spend that we need. We won't get enough on that. What I would do next is like make sure that list is scrubbed really good. And what I can do is I can show you an example of one that I just sent actually to my mail house and what it looks like.
Do you just sort of like you scrub them, but then you just mass send them? And then I noticed this DataFlik like sends me. Then I got behind because I was like, I thought it was just going to send this bunch to me once, but then it started sending me every week, and I was like, oh, well. And I didn't really know. We just had that conversation. I was like, sure. And then I put in like 4 different counties, like all the counties we buy in, and I was getting all these lists of these like hundreds or thousands of properties. I was like, oh shoot, now now I have a few lists. They're now a few weeks old. I don't know if those are now useless or not, but
no, they're not useless. Just grab the most recent one and work off of that one and send it out. Don't get overwhelmed because they're just like adding and taking things off that. You could just grab one list and mail that same list like at least 3 months in a row, if not 6 months. If you want to get hyper efficient, you could go every time they send you a new list, you can do a quick compare of like what's new. I'll show you a trick how to do that. But so in this case, like, hey, I send the same formatted email to the mail house every single time. Use my pink or blue card with black letters this time. Attached, I'd like to get the postcard mailed on this exact date. Here's my mail pieces. Here's how much I think it should cost. Here's the name I want you to put on the postcard. And then I sent this list. So I think the point there is I'm sending a curated list, and on this list, you see at the top of it is first name, last name, property address, city, state, zip, then mailing address, city, state, zip, and then the marketing number. This is the number that's going to be on the postcard that they're going to call into, and then my website. That's it. That's all the information the mail house needs.
Okay.
Like, I don't want to confuse them or have them make a mistake with all that other data. That data is good for us to clean the list and take off the stuff we don't want to market to and all that kind of stuff. But they don't need that. All they need is property address, mailing address.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm telling the mail house, I want to send, here's my list. It's already structured appropriately. It's about this many pieces. What's it going to cost me? And for you maybe you don't send this to the mail house. Maybe you use some of Tyler Jensen's ninja mail tricks to do it at a way better cost. We won't go like super deep into that, but you can go like
I just got my stamps emailed today.
Me too. I got 22. I bought 22,000. I got 6,000 pieces of mail come to my office, hopefully in the next couple of days. But yes, so I like that. I would use that strategy. So in that case, all you have to do is order the mail. Like, you can do it one of two ways. You can produce the mail yourself, like Tyler shows. Like, you can put it in the envelopes, do all that work, and create that like mechanical system at your house. Or what I do is I just go to the mail house and I say, what's it cost for just the mail? Don't put postage on it. Okay. Right. And I just ordered letters, and I think I got them for 27 cents plus my 12-cent, so our whole like ninja strategy there. The point is, you still got to produce the mail, and it's going to be based off of this sheet you have cleaned up and ready to go. You send that to the mail house, you get the mailers. And then, from there, you're just sending the mail out and kind of going through the rest of the funnel we talked about.
Okay.
And this, you can see this is actually a DataFlik list, direct mail, that I sent out in February of 22. And this is like 26,000 pieces of mail.
Wow.
Now, there's one other component of this, depending on how many pieces of mail you're going to send. And you, by the way, Sarah, you don't have to send. So like, let's say your DataFlik list is like 5,000 cleaned up. Yeah. Or let's say it's 4,000. You can prepare it and do a 1,000 per week.
Oh, I see.
And the reason you might do that is to mitigate having too many phone calls where you can't take care of those calls. So if you have 4,000 records, just prepare 4,000 Excel sheets. Or actually, you know what you could do? If you're going to order the mail to your house and do it yourself, just order all the mail, but only send 1,000 out every Friday. And then you'll know you'll only get, you might get, if you get 10 to 20 phone calls on 1,000 pieces of mail, that would be really fantastic. Highly unlikely you're getting more than 20 phone calls from that. If you got 20 phone calls, like, you should call me immediately because I'll be like dancing. This is interesting. So like when I look at this data, so this is like, let me just save this as an Excel. So I open this in Excel and I just kind of want to see, I just play with the data a little bit to understand it. Give me the largest to smallest, like what has the most. Okay, four distressors, 2 liens. Okay, that's interesting. So then I come in here and what I do is I don't need any of this. The other thing I like to make sure I look at in here is make sure I'm targeting the right property types. So you see this has all these? Yeah. Like, are you flipping condos? No. Okay, yeah, so I come down here and I'm going to clean up the property type. So like, I'm getting rid of, are you going after duplexes?
Not duplexes, but like 4 or 6 I would go after.
I get rid of fraternity and sorority. Are you going after mobile or manufactured homes? No?
No.
Okay. So I get rid of these PUDs. So all this stuff, like that's 1,000 something records right there. Mm-hmm. Boom, gone. Okay, so these are all single family. That's what we're looking for. And then I'll just come down and see if there's anything weird on here. Okay, we got a couple weird ones. You want these triplexes?
No, probably not.
So I just get rid of that stuff, right? Okay, then come back up to the top. I don't really need this stuff anymore. I mean, you'll have a copy of this, so you can always come back and look at it. I'm not going to mess with those phone numbers, but I do want to see, let me get rid of all this. I do kind of just look through these different things. I'll keep this on my normal list. I'll keep a copy of this and oh, look at all these things that are on here. Pre-foreclosure, tax delinquent, lots of interesting distress stuff.
That's the Central Valley for you.
Yeah, but this is where people need your help. So you don't need this. You don't need any of that. Okay, do you have a year built? Like, Phil, is there some year that you wouldn't buy?
No.
You buy anything. The other thing I do is I sort these mailing addresses. Actually, I'm going to sort. I take the first and last name. I cut it and I put it in front of this. So I got first, last name, property address. I take these, I delete these. Why does it say this? I usually get rid of all these. Anything with this kind of stuff on it. Yeah. So I would get rid of that. And then another thing I like to do. Oh yeah, you definitely want to check equity.
What would be typical? Like 50 or more, 40?
I like to go after 50 or more.
Okay.
Need at least 50% or more. So I would filter by that too. And then there's some nuance. I don't need this full name column either. I don't need this property value column. I don't need this neighborhood column. Whoops. And then I want to sort these mailing addresses, and I'm going to show you why. Mailing address. Okay, so what I'm going to do is go down to hold on. I'm going to do this. I'm going to freeze this top row so I can see this. Now what I want to do is look at this column, and then I'm looking for the P.O. boxes. I've never had any success mailing to P.O. boxes.
Okay.
So I take all these out, and then down here there's not even mailing addresses. So this would have been wasted mail. So delete that. I'll probably leave this for sending mail to somebody's apartment. That's okay. If there's anything in this like these prefix columns on the property address, those are probably not properties that I want to do. So like these ones, I get rid of these. And then I don't need these 2 columns. I can delete them. So now what I have is, and then I don't need these anymore from my regular sheet. All I should really have is...
So you don't, when you're mailing, you don't care what the distress, like, you don't target like the most distressors or anything. You just...
Oh, I mean, I'm going to mail, like, how many?
All of them anyway?
Yeah, but like, let's just, how many? There's 3764. So maybe just mail 1,000, 1,000, 1,000, and then 700.
Mm-hmm.
And then repeat that cycle the next month. Well, let's just mail our first 1,000 and see if we get a response, right? And if it's like, okay, cool, I got 5 or 10 phone calls, let's do the next 1,000, let's do the next 1,000, let's do the next.
Sure.
So now in 1 month, we've hit the whole list. But we didn't, 3,000 isn't the end of the world, but I like to break it up and send it out weekly. Okay. So now the only thing you got to add to this list, Sarah, is your marketing number. And then I personally do like to include my website because it helps with credibility, that kind of thing. So you would put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1. And that's like your marketing number. And then you would just make sure that's copied all the way down. And then you take your website, sarahbuyscalifornia.com, and you would put that in all these. The reason I put it on there like that is so that because they're just injecting it into their system and they're doing merge fields.
Yeah.
And they just merge those fields right onto the template they're going to mail. Make sense?
Yeah. And then that's the list.
Yep. And then I take this list and I say save as, and then what I do is I take the last piece here. I'll take that. I'll keep that date on there, and then I'll say DM ready. So direct mail ready. Like I've cleaned this list. I save it. I know it's the right list. Once I have the number on website on here, of course, then that's what I send over to the mail house. I say, hey, I'm looking, just send the mail to me directly. I'll stamp it and send it out. Well,
that seems way less daunting than I had anticipated it to be.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to walk through it and see it in action, make it tactile.
Yeah. And so kind of going back to my question about this list, for example, would be a similar list that most people are also having.
No, I don't think so. I think there are kind of levels to the list. Like most people are going on to batch leads and prop stream or list source and targeting those properties.
Okay.
The next level are like the quality data providers, DataFlik, 80/20, Audantic are kind of like the next top 3. Like those 3 are more curated data, more accurate, we find, like just better curated data. It's going to typically be a little bit better than like your batch lead, your prop stream, your list source, like those really basic sources that everybody has access to. Mm-hmm. So these are a little bit better. They have more distress factors. They've got all the pre-foreclosure, the tax. Like there's theoretically the avatar is the distressed seller that needs your help.
Right.
More so than maybe a regular, like in list source, like Andy, for example. Andy, for the longest time, would mail a whole big old Audantic list. And then basically because he's sending so many pieces of mail, I don't know, 150,000 pieces of mail, he's just mailing basically all high equity absentee owners in, Utah. So everybody's getting mail. It's like Oprah. Mail for you. Right. But that's at like bigger scale. So like when I'm trying to be targeted and hyper efficient, my data matters a lot more. Like I need to be intentional about getting the best quality data possible if I'm going to be like just a real small data set.
Right.
And then like, you know, we could send 1,000 out, Sarah, and you don't get a call and we go, ooh, I don't like that. Like, let's chill, because maybe that's not the best thing to do in our market. But we can look at that too. Like, let's prep this mail, get it ready.
Okay.
And send out that first 1,000, pick up the phone and just track how many people called, you know, take the info down. Are they motivated? Did they say, take me off the list? So I can go, if you go, I got 10 phone calls. My next question is going to be, how many people had a house and wanted to sell? Like, I don't care if they wanted retail, $1 zillion, just like they called you because they had intent to sell. So that's what we're trying to differentiate on that first phone call. Is like, do they have a house and want to sell, or are they saying, take me off the list? Okay. So then we look at that. And then of those people who had a house and want to sell, did we like, why? Are they motivated? Are they tire kickers? Do they just want to know what their house is worth? Like, what's the quality of that?
Okay.
And honestly, half the time it's a smoke screen. Like, yeah, I want to know what my house is worth. But underneath the surface, when you start asking questions, you find out there's a lot going on and there's a lot of ways you can serve that person.
Okay. Okay. Well, that, yeah, so that this is very helpful for me to like now take that step. And then when, for example, that mail goes out, well, I guess I have now until now and then to figure out what I say when they call.
Well,
I'll go into the sales course and
just grab there's a script in there
Yeah.
for lead intake. Very simple. It's just, you know, okay, hey, what's your name? What's your address? And then you just, that sounds like something we can help you with. Let me ask you a few questions. You ask a few questions, and your whole purpose of that is to try to like figure out if there's any, timeline. It's really 4 pillars, honestly. The structure and the questions can be different, but it's how quickly are you looking to sell? So timeline, motivation or reason for selling. Like, what has you interested? What has you interested in selling today? And they'll give you some surface level answer, and maybe you dig a little deeper. So timeline, motivation, condition, and you might ask, like, do you know about how much you were looking to get for the property? So price, condition, motivation, timeline. Okay. Don't go too deep. And I would talk to Lindsay too. Like, Lindsay, make sure because Lindsay will be way better at like, hey, here's the questions you want to ask. But ultimately, those are the 4 things you're trying to determine. Like, is it worth me going on an appointment? And it's hard because 9 times out of 10, it's all surface level smokescreen stuff. They're playing hardball, even though once you get in that house, you're going to negotiate a good deal because they got all this stuff going on. A lot of times there's a barrier up. They're like, yeah, I just want to know what it's worth. I want $1 million. It's like, cool. Did you know you're going to auction in 3 days?
So when you like all the information that they send also like as phone numbers and emails, for you guys, do you specifically do you follow up with calls at some point?
Oh, we do. We do.
You do.
We do, but we have a whole lead gen team that does that. So it's like, for us, we're just injecting more data into their system and they're calling.
Yeah. Okay.
If you have the infrastructure to do that, yes, it's always going to be better to hit people from multiple angles. Like, I want to be in front of them in mail. I want to call them. I want to text them, or I want to be in front of them in PPC or Facebook ads or TV. You know, like Andy is direct mail. They see his mail. They see him on TV, and he's on the internet. When you search to sell your house, he's the one you see, right?
Okay.
So he's got omnipresence in his marketing. We have omnipresence. They get our mail. They're talking to us on the phone. They're texting with us.
Right.
Because, some people are not checking their mail. Some people don't answer their phones. We're trying to really maximize that data. I think the first things first is like, let's get the mail rolling. Let's assess the response on the mail. And, just have a very simple script conversation you have with these people. Don't, hey, yeah, they're calling you, right? Like they're interested. So it's like, okay, yeah, maybe we could do something good for you. Let me ask you a few questions.
Right. Yeah, it's super interesting on how long I've put this off for simply because I wasn't sure. or like simply because I'm like, I don't know what to do. Right. Like, I feel like it's like at each step at like some, like when someone starts with something, it's like, oh yeah, it's not for me. I don't know what to do. So it's just
Yeah.
easier to like push it
I'll
off.
do it later.
Oh yeah, that's right. Oh, well, yeah, it's not that, but I think as far as direct mail and like what I'm trying to do, it's just, I think it's a bit of a natural progression too, for our business, but also, I mean, it's also, I see it as necessary, but I think I like the last couple months, I'm just like, oh, I just like, I can't see it from like A to Z. So to me, that's too much. Right? If I can't see the exact path from like beginning to end, it was very easy to just, I mean, I still don't see the Z, but I do see a couple letters. So
Well, you're not going to feel like you see it from A to Z until you experience it.
fair.
But you know the steps. now.
Right. Right. So
The most important step is the next one.
very good. Yes.
What do you think, Dr. Sherry?
I love this conversation, Sarah. You are exactly in the position that I'm at. We have been relying on wholesalers and the MLS, and it's inconsistent.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to diversify our lead source. And I already made the decision right before going to Mexico that mailing would be our next step.
Mm.
And so I'm kind of in the midst. I know the steps. I've watched Tyler's stuff. I watched that literally one of the nights when, as an introvert, I was overwhelmed with all the Mexico stuff. And I'm like, I need quietness. I'm like, I'm going to watch, that's what I did. And so, yeah, I'm totally in the same spot and understand that, appreciate seeing the breakdown too, because it's just a simple mind block that doesn't have to be there.
Yeah. That's exactly me too. And like I'd spoken with Lauren Weathers and she had told me something that Miriam was doing, which is these. So I bought some of those. I got my stamps and I was like, I don't know. I'm not sure what I'm going to do next with all the stuff I'm collecting, but.
Well, now you got to create a assembly line operation and get those all prepped to get mailed out.
Yeah, that's right. And then like send them out for like mass mailers. And then I'll use these for maybe, my neighborhood, high equity, mostly original owners from 70s. So
I'll be dropping mail on all their boxes.
So I've got my little
letter.
I'll do and I have someone now to help me with some handwritten cards. So I mean, I like it's getting there, but it's just the execution that I'm stalling, and not like it's me who's doing that.
I love it.
Right, so Sherry, are you guys gonna do? What are you guys going to do?
We are going to do mailers. I appreciate just kind of some of the nuances of don't go to batch leads, which is what my husband had mentioned just literally last night. He's like, oh, I had this conversation and they're using batch leads. And so it's super helpful knowing that there's I guess I'm guessing that the more you pay for the list, the less people are using it. And so there's,
there's two barriers, right? Like I'm either did the hard work and research to find the source of the data and then automate getting it direct from the county website or whatever, which is a whole bunch of work, which is a great lead source. Most people won't do that work, so that it's a good data. Yeah. And then the next barrier to entry is like the more paid exquisite data, the DataFliks, the 80/20 list, or Audantic. Those are kind of the big three. They cost a little more money, but they're better curated. Some of them are AI scored and high quality. So yeah, there is levels to the data. All the data's flawed. None of it's perfect. And honestly, the thing that I could crush it with a certain data set, and then you in your state, the pedigree of the data isn't as quality for some reason. Mm-hmm. You could use the same exact source and be like, man, I didn't get that result. And that could be for a myriad of reasons. So Marketing is a big experiment. In order to know if it's effective, we have to track certain things on it to go, like for you, Sarah, let's get those first 1,000 out. And all I really wanted you to do is text me, once you send them out a week and a half later, send me a text and let me know how many phone calls you got. And then we can go through and go like, let's look at, okay, give me your notes on each one of these calls. What was going on with these people? And then I'll be able to tell you right out of the gate, like, yeah, that's effective. Let's get that moving.
Okay. Awesome. Well, this has been perfect. This is exactly what I needed. Right.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Me
Cool.
too.
Good. Yay. This is perfect then. We'll have to touch base here in like 2 weeks, see where we're at.
Yes.
How many
yes.
zeros are just flowing in and all the huge margins we're getting.
Absolutely.
Well, I feel like you got 7 right now. I think you're doing okay.
Yeah, those came in sort of fast and furious. And then, but again, what happens to me, I'm not sure, but like I get them all and then I'm so tied up with all of those that my analyzing my offers take a, stop. And then I'm like, oh, as I see those all coming to an end, I mean, they're all kind of just beginning, which is good, but then I'm, scrambling again to.
The thing that I would also say is we're kind of prisoners of the moment, the current feeling of like right now, we don't have a deal under contract, and Lindsay and I are like, oh my gosh, we don't have a deal under contract. But look at data. I try to look at data really over a quarter and over a year. Like at the end of this year, you're going to be like, oh, I did 25 houses or 35 houses. Most houses you've ever done. Mm-hmm. You had margins. They were profitable. You're like, wow, if I look at my business compared to last year, I grew 30%.
Right.
Which any business that grows 30% in a year is like a rocket ship. So it's all perspective, right? And we got to look at the law of averages over longer periods of time. But we don't do that because we're like, now we want to win right now. I have 0 and I want 100.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Great job, ladies. Have a good weekend.
Thanks.
Happy Mother's Day to the both of you.
Thanks
for what you do for your families and the example you set for others. I really appreciate that. And this has been an awesome Friday morning for me.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for listening and watching this episode of the 7-Figure Flipping podcast. And don't forget on your way out to leave us a 5-star review. We would love to hear feedback on how you learned and grew from listening to this podcast with Sarah.